Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Mike Francesa podcast on this Football Friday on the Bet Rivers Network. Brought to you, as always, by Casamigos Tequila. Casamigos Tequila is brought to you by those who drink it. Week 3 in the National Football League began last night with the Jets' very efficient, professional 24-3 win over the overmatched Patriots. So the Jets get to rest, put their feet up, watch everyone else go this Sunday. And get ready for the Denver Broncos next week at 2-1. Interesting week here in week number 3. Some interesting matchups, a couple of 2-0 matchups, a very big game for the Ravens and the Cowboys. An interesting Sunday nighter. 2 games on Monday night, neither one very interesting, as a matter of fact. But overall, a good slate of games. Couple of things. Clearly, passing's down. Teams are playing more efficient defense. They are taking away the deep pass. Not always, but for the most part. Running games up, passing games down, field goals up, field goal efficiency, especially on long field goals, way up. And I can tell you this. The NFL does not like how many field goals are being kicked. They do not like it at all. It's boring. Okay? Nobody wants a team to take 10, have a game where there's 10 field goal attempts in the game. Will they do anything to make it different? Not until the season's over. There's been a couple of discussions about certain things, but that's for the competition committee. And then obviously for a vote of the owners next spring. Nothing happens in season, so you're going to live with these field goals. The amazing thing that's going on is 2 things. One, it's not a big deal anymore to see a 60-yard field goal attempt or to have a guy line up confidently and knock it through from 58 and 59. That used to be a rarity. Now it happens all the time. You got guys contemplating lining up for 69 and 70-yard field goals. It is unbelievable how long these guys have become and how efficient they have become on long field goals. I mean, the most puzzling thing in the Jet game last night is that they actually missed a field goal. Field goals have become so automatic, and from long distances, it's unbelievable, but it's something they don't want to be as big a part of the game as it is. And this is in an era where teams go for it much more. You know, because of analytics, you have teams go on 4th and 2 and 4th and 3 down inside the 20-yard line, where in the past, all they would do is kick a field goal. So from that standpoint, you should be getting less field goals. But overall, we're getting more field goals because every time they get across now and they're inside what would be a 60-yard field goal attempt, they're in range. The 50s are no longer a big deal. When you see a guy lining up for 58, 59, now you don't even blink. That has changed radically. Really radically. Quarterback changes because of injury are something that the NFL always lives with. Quarterback changes because of inefficiency after 2 weeks, unusual, already happening in Carolina, where Dalton will start, and they ask the young man who they had pinned their hopes to go to the sideline and see if he can learn. Now, they actually had a couple people call about his availability, is my understanding, and they said, no, we're not trading him. But they're going to let him watch, which is not the end of the world. People take these top quarterback prospects, guys who were drafted in the top 5 picks, and as soon as they get benched or as soon as they hit a hardship, they act like it's over. Nonsense. I saw Troy Aikman get benched. I saw Terry Bradshaw get benched repeatedly, lost his job so many times. The last time he lost it, he went in tears to Nolan, wanted to trade. A guy named Joe Gilliam took his job. This is a guy who went on to win 4 Super Bowls in 4 tries and become one of the great quarterbacks ever. two-time Super Bowl MVP, a giant in the sport, a legend in the sport. It's not a big deal if you get benched. Very few quarterbacks come in, hit the ground running. It does not happen often because usually you're talking about bad teams that are rebuilding, which means they're rebuilding the offensive line, they're rebuilding their offensive personnel, and they don't surround the quarterback with a lot of talent. It's a little different when he walks into a ready-made situation. When that happens, you get Marino or Mahomes. It doesn't happen often. So the fact that Young goes to the bench for Dalton is not that big a deal. But it gets so much attention, it's remarkable. The other thing is, Chiefs will be in prime time against the Falcons, who won a big game in prime time last week, coming from behind against the Eagles, and stamping Cousins and the Cousins era in Atlanta. Kelce has 4 catches for 35 yards in 2 games. He's only been targeted 5 times in 2 games. That was going to change, but it's really going to change now because they don't have Pacheco. So if you were looking for Kelce to get a steady diet, he's going to get a steady diet now again. He hasn't hit the end zone, and he's only been targeted 5 times. Last game, 1 target, caught 1 ball for 1 yard. Hey, under those circumstances, you never get to see Taylor Swift. All right, games of week number 3. As we said, Jets 2-1. Still no movement on Reddick. The Jets have 11 days now to see what they can do to get better. They are 2-1, off an impressive win. Rodgers put smiles on everybody's faces last night with what was a typical Rodgers performance. Giants 0-2 in Cleveland to take on the Browns. Going to Cleveland is never easy. Myles Garrett's banged up, but you know what? He'll play and he'll wreak havoc like he always does, even with his bad foot. Played on it last week, had a sack. Giants at 0-2 because they didn't have a kicker last week. They moved the ball. They threw the ball to their new number 1 target. They ran the ball well, but they didn't have a kicker, so they went for it on 4th down. Neighbors had a big drop. They allowed Washington to get into the red zone 7 times. They kicked 7 field goals and won. So the Giants lost the game where they held the team without a touchdown, which is something that doesn't happen very often. They're 0-2, and their schedule is very tough. Going to Cleveland to play this Browns defense is very tough. Next week, they get the Cowboys on Thursday night. So the Giants are in Cleveland today on Sunday, and then turn around and play Cowboys at home on Thursday night. Then they have tough games. They have to go to Seattle. And the Seahawks are already 2-0, and then they come home and play a Sunday nighter against the Bengals. A very tough stretch, and the Giants could be looking at 0-5, 0-6. And at that point, anything they were hoping for this year is already down the drain. Chargers 2-0 under Harbaugh, running it really well. Herbert's banged up, but he will play. They're running it. That's what Harbaugh wants to do. They went out and got Dobbins and Edwards. Dobbins has been terrific. He's been one of the stories of this season so far. You know, if you've listened to me, that I've always been a very big Dobbins guy, except he's injury prone. I know he's a big player. You know, we have like a family fantasy league. And I picked Dobbins. Not late. I mean, not early, but not late. Because I've always liked him. Steelers are 2-0. Fields is a quarterback. He will be a quarterback again. Steelers have played very good defense, which you expect. Somebody here is going to be 3-0. Either Harbaugh and the Chargers are going to be 3-0, or the Steelers are going to be 3-0. So somebody's going to be off and running with big expectations on this season. The Texans are 2-0, little banged up. Vikings are 2-0 behind Sam Darnold, a lot banged up. They don't have Hawkinson. They don't have Addison. Jefferson is banged up, but he will play. So again, one of these teams is coming out of there 3-0. Now, not a surprise if the Texans are 3-0 because a lot of people expected a lot from Houston this year. The Vikings, if they're 3-0, heck of a story behind Sam Darnold. Packers 1-1 in Tennessee to take on the 0-2 Titans. Love may play. Not saying he's going to be or not going to be. Sounds like he's going to dress. He's been on the practice field this week, so he could be back. Titans are 0-2. They could easily be 2-0. Number one, their defense is underrated. And if you saw what Rodgers did last night to the Pats, you know that that Tennessee defense is good. And Tennessee, if they had gotten smarter play out of their quarterback, out of Levis, they would be 2-0. They had a 17-0 lead on the Bears and then completely turned the ball over. Plus, they have had a punt blocked in each of their first two games. You want to see a special teams change? Get your punt blocked in the third straight game. That is just getting a punt blocked once in a year is bad. Twice is just unbelievable. And three times would be, hey, are you looking for a job? Bears and Colts. Bears lost the Texans last week. Colts are 0-2. They lost 29-27 to the Texans. They were knocking on the door late against the Packers. They've been run on like crazy. Now, Chicago hasn't moved the ball at all. But they do have a win. The Colts desperately need to shore up their defense, and they need to win this game. This is a game they should be able to win. If they don't, it's going to be a very long season in Indianapolis. Eagles are 1-1 to take on the 2-0 Saints. The question everyone is asking all over the NFL, how good are the Saints? Is this real? They put a 40 on Carolina? Okay. They put a 40 on Dallas in Big D. Okay. 16 scores and 21 drives. Pass plays down the field. Big chunk pass plays. Kamara looking great. Carr looking terrific. Is it real? We're going to find out against the Eagles, who lost a tough game to the Falcons, had the lead, and the Falcons came down the field and beat them with a touchdown late. Now they get the Saints in New Orleans. If the Saints come out of there 3-0, hey, going to have to take them seriously. Broncos are 0-2. They've struggled moving the ball. On the road to take on the 2-0 Bucks. I'm surprised the Bucks won in Detroit. The Lions got into the red zone 7 times and scored once. That's why they lost the game. Bucks are 2-0. They're passing the ball well. They should be able to get past Denver, although I think this game will be closer than people think. I don't like the Bucks as big favorites, and I think the Broncos will play a lot better than they have the first 2 weeks. I don't think they'll win, though. Panthers 0-2. Dalton at quarterback for Young. Raiders 1-1 off their big comeback. They lost week 1 to the Chargers. They come back week 2. They're trailing the Ravens in Baltimore by 10 points. And they come back and win the game. Big win for the Raiders. Big win. Now, the story there, how good Bowers is. 15 catches in his first 2 games. Headed for stardom. Everybody all over the league saying it. Headed for stardom. We knew this guy was good. It looks like he's going to be really special. This is the next big star at tight end. I don't think there's any question about it. Dolphins hit 1-1. A mess. They'll get Mostert back to join with Ashawn in the backfield. They have weapons. Hill, Waddle, Ashawn, Mostert. But what about the quarterback situation? What about the offensive line? Hurting on the offensive line, in to take on the Seahawks. Tua is on the IR. Will he play again this year? Who knows? Who knows? And a good conscience should he? Who knows? Thompson, the quarterback, is he an NFL starting quarterback? He hasn't shown that yet. Seahawks 2-0 off their win in New England. Came from behind, tied the game up, won it in overtime. 2-0 start for the new coach. A little banged up, but very good chance to get to 3-0. Fascinating game in Dallas. I mean, I am very much looking forward to this game. The Ravens 0-2 for only the second time in Harbaugh's career in Baltimore. 0-2. The one time they were 0-2 before, they went 5-11. They're 0-2. They go to take on the Cowboys, who just got blown out by the Saints, embarrassed by the Saints. Somebody's coming out of this game, either Ravens 0-3 or Dallas 1-2. Either one's going to be a bit of disappointment. So this is a big Week 3 game. Niners and Rams, as banged up as any team, both of them. Rams don't have either of their wide receivers. Niners don't have Samuel, don't have McCaffrey. So a lot of backups, know each other really well. Niners are 1-1, Rams are 0-2, and the Rams are, I mean, they've had as many injuries as any team in the league so far. Lions are 1-1, go to take on the Cards. Cards looked good last week. Harrison had a big game. Lions D's a little banged up. You would think this game's got shootout written all over it. Arizona's going to move the ball. Lions are going to move the ball. It's a big game for the Lions. I think to just get their stability. They lost the game they shouldn't have lost. Now they're 1-1, go on the road. Not an easy game, so interesting game for the Lions. Sunday night, good one. Chiefs 2-0. No Pacheco. Out for a couple of months. Falcons 1-1 off that big Week 2 win. Lost a tough game to the Steelers in Week 1, and the Falcons have lost game after game after game that was close, and now they come back last week and win a game in Philly, drive the field late, Cousins, touchdown, win the game. Now they get national TV in Atlanta to show everybody that they are going to be a real contender this year. They're real. They're going to try and win a division. They're going to be a big-time team. They get to show it against the 2-0 Chiefs Sunday night. Very interesting game. As I said, Kelce's off to a very slow start. Look for him to be far more a bigger part of the offense here, especially with Pacheco out. 2 games Monday night. Double dip. Jags and Bills in game 1. The Jags' offense is nowhere. Ingram's hurt. Offensive line shaky. This team, which a year ago looked like it was headed for big things, looks like it's headed for the wall right now. I mean, it looks terrible. Now they get the 2-0 Bills. Jags could be 0-3 here. That is a big-time disappointment. See, they lost the game Week 1 to Miami that they had the lead. They should have won the game. They didn't. Then they lose Week 2. They were throwing for the end zone at the end of the game, lost the game, 0-2. Offense sputtering all over the place. Not enough weapons for Lawrence right now. Need weapons. Etienne has not been the same player. And they need guys to step up at wide receiver. Washington, 1-1, although the Giants moved the ball all day on them. Washington moved the ball on the Giants, ran the ball. The young quarterback obviously has mobility. They get the Bengals, who are 0-2 after a tough loss against the Chiefs. Bengals outplayed the Chiefs, still lost. Bengals are 0-2 and need a confidence builder. There's not many times where you think a team needs a game to just feel good about itself again. Send a message to its fan base. Get the players involved. I think you're playing a Washington team that's going to give up a ton of points, going to give up a ton of pass plays. Now they can get their wide receivers going. They can get the passing game going. I think this is a game where the Bengals want to go out and put a 35 up on the board. And if they don't, I'll be very surprised on Monday night. So Jags and Bills, the better of the Monday night games. Washington on Monday night against Cincinnati, and Cincinnati in desperate need of a victory. Desperate need. Now, we've told you about the Bet Rivers app, and we've also told you about the squares. And just a couple of weeks ago, somebody in the metropolitan area won $10,000. All you got to do is play the same game parlays, which you all love, a million of them. You all love the same game parlays. And play a $10 same game parlay, and you're involved in a scares game. Play upwards from there, and you could have as many as three spots in, how the Super Bowl box looks. Same thing for the squares. Hit the square, boom. You could win up to $10,000. Players can play same game parlays on college football and NFL games to earn squares. The exclusive square game offers additional chances for profit boosts, bonus bets, and many $10,000 jackpots. Like I said, somebody in the metropolitan area won one recently. So, hey, can't beat it. You know what? Gives you more action. It's fun. You can follow along as the game goes on. It's just like when you have the Super Bowl box. You're always looking at the box every time the score. You're looking at this same thing. Play your same game parlays on college football, on the NFL, and then you're playing in the squares game. And gives you a little more action to enhance your Sundays. Go to the Bet Rivers app for all the details and everything else that's going on. We'll get to the emails for football in just a minute. Let me get to baseball for a second, because baseball now reaches the second to last weekend of the year. We are 10 games from the finish line. If you weren't paying attention because you were watching the Jets last night, the Yankees lost, the Mets won. Mets, again, hit a bunch of home runs. Alonso, Nimmo, Alvarez, Vientos, all homered. Beat the Phillies. They remain, the Braves won. So the Mets go into the weekend in a good position. Now remember, 3 with the Phillies, and then they go to Atlanta Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Then they finish up at Milwaukee to finish the season, while Atlanta will finish up with Kansas City. Right now, San Diego is 2 games up in the wild card. Arizona and the Mets are tied for the second and third spots in the wild card at 85 and 68. Arizona and San Diego close against each other next weekend. Atlanta is 83 and 70, 2 games behind. So 2 games behind. The Mets are 2 games in front, and they are tied for the second wild card right now as we begin the final 10 games of the season. The Mets will be entertaining the Phillies all weekend. The Yankees will be out playing Oakland. Tonight it's Sanchez against Peterson. They'll see Wheeler Sunday night. That's the Sunday night game, Mets and Phillies. On ESPN, they'll see Wheeler. They missed Wheeler last week. They get Wheeler this week, though. Mets get the Phillies. Braves get the Marlins in Florida. What we've learned here is, White Sox aside, and even they won a game against the Yankees, that any of these teams can win a game. They all can be a pain in the neck. We know that. The Mets have the Phillies, 3 with the Braves, then they finish up in Milwaukee. Now, Kansas City, which is fighting for a wild card spot, will be playing the Braves the final 3 games of the season. Braves have the Marlins, the 3 with the Mets. So right now it's 2. Mets would like to take 2 or better into the 3 games in Atlanta. They're playing the Phillies this weekend. They're playing the Marlins. So you figure if you keep it at 2, you did your job. They have to sweep. Now, we know it's been a house of horror for the Mets. And that's why that Tuesday night game will be such an enormous game. The Yankees have a 4-game lead. They see the Orioles next Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday at the stadium. Orioles this weekend are playing the red hot Tigers, who are right now in the postseason. They've been the best team in baseball over the last 40 games. They are 80-73. They are making a huge run. Tigers are in Baltimore this weekend. Yankees are in Oakland. Orioles and Yankees play. Then the Orioles will play the Twins, and the Yankees will play the Pirates at home to finish the season. Yankees are 4 up. Right now, that's a commanding lead. All they have to do is beat the Orioles once. If the Yankees can have a decent weekend in Oakland, they should be. I mean, it's reasonable to think the Yankees will still be 4 up when they play the Orioles starting on Tuesday. Orioles, if they sweep and the Yankees drop 1 in Oakland, they'd only pick up 1 game. The Yankees would still be 3 up and only need 1 win in that series. So the Orioles know they're going to have to come here and sweep if they want to win the division. They're going to the playoffs. The Yankees are going to the playoffs. The Yankees, though, have to worry about the 1 seed. They don't have to worry about not being first or second. They will be no worse than second if they win the division. They're already in the playoffs. They have 89 wins. Cleveland has 89 wins. Houston has 83 wins. So the third division winner plays. The first 2 get byes. The Yankees and Cleveland are tied right now. In the National League right now, the Dodgers and Phillies each have 91, and Milwaukee has 88. Milwaukee is still in the mix. So as the Mets play well against Philly, they actually give Milwaukee more incentive to play next week against them. So those games in Milwaukee next weekend are not going to be easy for the Mets. But right now, the Yankees are in the postseason, and you expect them to win the division. And right now, the Mets are 2 games up with 10 to play. So they are in very, very good shape right now and continue to just play terrific baseball. Now, as I said, some emails. Here we go. You can send me emails to MikeFrancesa@gmail.com. Doug starts us off. If the Giants start the season 0-6, could Daboll lose his job midseason? No. I don't think, barring a utter disaster, I think he will be here. Now, everyone's going to ask about Belichick. I still think it's more likely Belichick, who I think will be back in the league next year despite his myriad of TV jobs. I mean, he's making every buck he can and every appearance he can. He has decided to go full bore, and which is his right. First of all, he's got a lot to say. He's a very bright guy. Nobody knows more about the modern football game than he does. We know that. He is everywhere. So be it. He's making use of his time. I think he's going to coach again. I would think it's more likely Dallas than the Giants, but I wouldn't rule the Giants 100% out. He and John Mara have always had a very good relationship, and he's always had a very warm spot for the Giants. Remember, though, he's had no relationship with the Tisches. He left when the Tisches bought the team. And how crazy was it? Last night was the first time that the Jets and the Pats have played that Bill Belichick was not on the sideline for the game since, you know what year? 1995. Because, remember, he was an assistant in New England. After he got fired in Cleveland, Bill brought him back as an assistant. He did not become defensive coordinator that year, but he had a lot to do with the defense. He handled the deep backs, and he aided Al Groh, who was the defensive coordinator, and that team went to the Super Bowl. And that's when Kraft and Belichick became friends, when Kraft was having trouble with Parcells, and sowed the seeds of them having a relationship, even though Belichick went with Parcells to the Jets, was there with them, their rebuilding there, their success there, the loss to Denver in the AFC title game. And then when Bill retired, he took over as head coach, as we know, and then resigned and went to New England. We all know the story. But it's the first time in 30 years that he was not on the sideline for a Jet Pat game, which had most of the time resulted in Pat wins. A very different game last night, without any question. But back to Daboll, and this year, I think he finishes the season. I don't think there's any question. Will, who do you think will be the Jets' best offensive weapon not named Rodgers? I don't think there's any question. Hall is the centerpiece of the offense. They are going to use Allen. You need two backs. Allen is going to be, without question, the short yardage back. He also is very good catching the ball out of the backfield. Hall can line up. They can run wheels with him. They can run a lot of offensive stuff with him. And he's a game breaker. He hasn't had a game break. Yeah, he had a 30-yarder in Tennessee, but he hasn't had one of those, dynamic runs yet that you used to from him. But he continues to do his job. Had a touchdown last night. It wasn't spectacular, but useful. I think he is the number one weapon. Obviously, Wilson's number two weapon. But you're going to see Lazard get the ball. You're going to see Williams catch the ball more and more. You're going to see Allen involved. You're going to see both tight ends involved. That is going to happen. He is going to get the ball to a bunch of targets. But the main guy will be Hall. I don't think there's any question about that. Chris, what has happened to the Jags? Last year, Lawrence was hurt. And he doesn't like to sit. And he played hurt, and it hurt him and it hurt the team. But something is missing there. From the coaching staff to the play calling, to the preparation, to the offensive play, to the personnel. It's not what it should be. It looked like it was about to explode there, and now it looks like it's going distinctly backwards. So it bears watching, as they are 0-2 and already go to Buffalo this Monday night. James, I usually don't like the greatest of all time conversation, but all Mahomes does is win. Now he's 2-0 again. What's the next step for him cementing the title as the best ever at this young age? Listen, I never get concerned in this stuff. Is Mahomes headed for the Hall of Fame? Yes, on roller skates. I made the point last night because Mahomes is already a multiple Super Bowl MVP at a very young age. Mahomes, if he never played on the down, would be a Hall of Famer. There's no question about it. He has had that kind of impact on the sport. He will go through a period here in his career where he won't go to the Super Bowl for a while. Never take these Super Bowl appearances for granted. You don't know when another is coming. Look at how many Dan Marino went to one Super Bowl as a young man. Second year, never went back. Dan Fouts never went. I can go down the line. Great players who have only won one Super Bowl. I mean, Aaron Rodgers has won one Super Bowl. He's an all-time great. Many guys have never won any. It is very hard to have things in place, and Mahomes has had that now for quite a while. It's still there. They are legitimately a team that can win it all again this year. It's going to change. There'll be a time when Andy retires. There'll be a time when he goes through these current players, and he'll go through a lull in his career. It'll happen. It will happen. It happens to everybody. Just like you saw Kraft sitting there last night when they lost and sitting there through that 24-3. Hey, Kraft's had enough Super Bowls for a lifetime. I hope they did because they're not going to be back in one for a while. A long time. You know how long it's been since the Dallas Cowboys have won a Super Bowl? You know how long it's been since the Miami Dolphins have been in a Super Bowl or won a Super Bowl? And there are teams that have never been to the Super Bowl. So you don't take it ever for granted. But is his career, which is I think the point you're making, is his career cemented? As far as greatness, yes. As far as the best ever, that's I don't like that tag anyway. I told you many times when I'm asked about Tom Brady and asked about quarterbacks, the best quarterback I saw day in, day out, regular season, in my years of watching this sport religiously, and I have ever since I've watched it religiously ever since I was 10 years old. And I have watched it for 60 years. And the best day in, day out quarterback in the regular season I've ever seen has been Peyton Manning. In terms of preparation, in terms of drive, in terms of running your team, in terms of everything. And the best postseason quarterback and Super Bowl quarterback was Joe Montana. Joe Montana is the best Super Bowl quarterback by so far, it's not even worth discussing. His numbers are so much better than anybody else's in the Super Bowl. It's not even a discussion. So that's what I always say. The best Super Bowl quarterback, Montana. The best everyday quarterback, I thought Manning was the best at everything that it takes to be a quarterback. The most physically talented quarterback, gifted in all facets of what makes a quarterback special that I have seen since I've been watching, I think is Aaron Rodgers. And he's the most accurate quarterback I've ever seen. And last night you saw it on display again. His accuracy is just so special. It really is. He just drops the ball and he lays the ball in there so beautifully. It is really a thing of beauty. Paulie, have you had enough of the Kelce brothers yet? You know, you see a lot of NFL commercials if you watch a lot of NFL. I watch an enormous amount of NFL, so I see all the commercials. And one thing is very obvious, this statement. The Manning brothers, Shaquille O'Neal, and the Kelces get a lot of commercials. First of all, Peyton Manning gets a million, God bless him, he gets a million commercials. I mean, I don't have time, he has time to do anything else, he's in so many commercials. Shaquille O'Neal is in so many commercials. And now Kelce is in, not as much Travis, but Kelce brothers, and obviously Kelce, who is now retired, is in a ton of commercials. Hey, he's hot right now. You see Mahomes in plenty of commercials too. They use him a lot, and I expect you're going to see Tom Brady in a bunch. I saw Tom Brady in a Tostitos commercial last night. I think you're going to see Tom Brady in more commercials. But Peyton Manning and Shaquille O'Neal take the cake. They are in every commercial. They must be just, I can't imagine their bank accounts. They must be. And I know that Omaha Productions is doing great, and they're making a ton of money on ESPN. They're making a ton of money on their gambling relationships, and with the hotel and with the site and everything else. And hey, good for them. But boy, they are making an absolute killing. I mean, I can't imagine. I don't know how Peyton has enough hours in the day to do everything he does. And he is in how many commercials? It is really amazing. But yes, they seem to use the same people in the commercials over and over, and now the Kelces are getting a lot of attention. Travis needs to get a little more attention from his quarterback. 5 targets in 2 games, 4 catches in one game, 3 catches in one game, 1 catch in the other game, 4 for 35 on the season. No touchdowns. So if you were one of these people in fantasy who took Kelce early, reached for Kelce in the first couple of rounds, you're like, what is going on? Well, now with Pacheco out, I would think he would get a lot more attention than he has gotten. We will see Sunday after the Giants and the Browns. We will be on the Mike Francesa channel, on the Bet Rivers Network, on YouTube at that time. Brought to you, as always, by Casamigos Tequila. Brought to you by those who drink it. So we will see you Sunday after the Giants try to get a win in Cleveland. It will not be easy. Going to Cleveland and playing that defense is one of the tougher chores there is in the entire National Football League. The only question about Cleveland is, They're banged up at tackle. They're banged up at tight end. Their quarterback is yet to produce any real offense. Can their offense get going? If it does, Giants are in trouble because I don't see the Giants getting the 20 points there. The question is, can Cleveland get the 20 points there? They should be able to throw the ball in the Giants. Everyone else does. We'll see you later.